Hey everyone, Internet Vicious Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about Parasite by Hitoshi Iwaki. When I'm reading weekly manga or manhwa, I usually read a ton of shonen action. I get the appeal. It's turning your brain into a return to monkey mode where you just enjoy some imaginary kids punching each other in an imaginary world. But for the most part, they kinda is like an unhealthy diet like junk food, whether it's well written shonen or well cooked indomie. There's only so much MSG you can consume until your brain turns to mush because of too much escapism. Since that's the point of their stories. By not having too much depth to the story, it is easier to turn your brain off so you can bypass any flaws in the writing. So to balance it out, you needed some stories with some depth to its writing. But literature or worse non-fiction might be too far a hurdle for you to jump if your entry level is at shonen, which as the word meant literally young boy level of reading. Now here's where shonen come in, the next best thing as a stepping stone after shonen. Parasite is one of these manga that is targeted to seinen demographic, but unlike its contenders like Berserk, Monster, and even the recent Vinland Saga, it tends to be more forgotten the more time progresses for a good reason because it's not as good as any of these titles I mentioned, but as a bridge between shonen and seinen, I think there's nothing better than Parasite. And since recently it had some return to public after the Korean adaptation came out, it's time to talk about the manga I think. The manga itself started in 1988, back when for the first time ever climate change and ozone layer got a little bit of public attention. And I think that's why the book starts with the question, if there were half the numbers of humans, how many fewer forests would we burn? If there was one human for every 100, then the poison they give off would be that much less. It asks a question of what do it mean to protect the world? A question it really like that it continues even to the sequel that is nowhere near as good as the original. But let's not get into that. Once those questions has been established, we go into the story. It was nighttime at Tokyo and some hairy balls dropped from the sky. Then from those hairy balls comes this disgusting looking snake with a drill on its head. It took a walk on the empty night street and went inside a house. Using its drill, it goes into some guy who is sleeping and got inside his head from his ear. He made a few tweets that woke his wife, but since he went back to sleep after that, nothing happens, at least for now. Meanwhile, in another household, the same looking creature was met with a dude wearing his Walkman into sleep. He cannot go into his ear since it was blocked, so he tried to go in through his nose, but the fuzzy ball woke him instead. Fully awake now, the boy realized there's a snake in his room, so he tried to squash it. The worm jumped into him and the boy blocked with his arm. The snake tried to worm his way up to his arm, but with quick thinking, the boy tied his arm using his earphone cable. But when his family checked the noise he's making, they only found him tying his own hand with no snake or snake-related injury inside. Quickly, the man at the start of the story and the boy have two very different experiences with the snake that got into them. And these are not the only balls landing on Earth, there are uncountables. In the morning, after the man practiced some funny face at the mirror, he ate his wife. And no, not that kind of ate, literally ate him, showing some great body horror. His face opens and he swallowed his wife's head clean. Meanwhile, the boy who we now know is named Shinichi had a very different experience. In his case, the creature now lived in his hand. The hand got Shinichi into some trouble before he realized what happened. He got into trouble with the teacher, then with his schoolmate, then with some random delinquents at the train back home. Here's one of the weaknesses of Parasite storytelling that's been apparent since the start. The main character can be a bit too chill about some events. He's like the playable character in a horror game, where you enter the weirdest room you've ever seen in your life, and the character is just walking around. Instead of having any reaction to the room, he just went, now, if I was an emo or green herb, where would I be? Which yes, is a bit weird, but it at least can make some scenes funnier if you like dry comedy. The hand named himself Miki from the Japanese word for Reich because he is a Reich hand, and it was from Miki that we get some information on what these creatures are. They're some sort of alien that landed on Earth, and if like the man that ate his wife, again, not that way, he managed to get into their head, he'll be replaced by the alien. Kinda like Cordyceps, the fungus that grew on bugs' head and take control of their mind. Because Shinichi managed to protect his head by using his hand and then tying it so Miki cannot get into his head, instead of being fully replaced, he got a hand that he cannot control that talks to him. And it didn't take long for Shinichi to understand how dangerous the parasite aliens are. After all, Parasite is still a very action-heavy seinen manga. The story progression had that escalation of threat that is common in action story. The first danger they encountered is from a creature that got inside the dog with limited evolution capability, so even without Shinichi's help, Miki got rid of the dog fairly quickly. And the threat escalates into other aliens that to control of other humans, so the danger to Shinichi and Miki, whose life is tied to Shinichi's life, is also got worse. But aside from the normal escalation of threat, the story also functions like a thought experiment, which makes the question in the opening makes a lot more sense. What if a species that is the natural predator for human came to planet Earth? What if they learned the many ways of human in such a short time? And you can see this through how different a lot of these parasites are from each other. In the first guy we see who ate his wife, we see someone who directly goes into his nature and started killing everyone around him because he sees everyone that's not the alien as prey to kill. He's one of the first who started the mincemeat murder that will become important in the world of parasite. There's also a parasite that quickly got consumed by his own strength enough to make him conceited and reckless to openly attack a school in broad daylight in order to kill Shinichi. But beside Nikki and Shinichi, one of the most interesting parasites is Ryoko Tamiya, a parasite that wanted to blend in with the human world purely out of curiosity. So she is quite literally a human trying to act like a man, because she doesn't have any guide to how humans function. When the mother of her body comes, she immediately got found out that she's not the real Ryoko, which only confuses the parasite even further. And on their direct opposition, we see Miki, who is forced to have a symbiotic relation with Shinichi where they need to depend on each other. As strange as this might sound, the relationship between Shinichi and his right hand Miki is one of the best part of the story. Because Shinichi is a high school student that is still in his phase of figuring things out, we also get a coming of age story in one of the most bizarre circumstances. And because Miki is attached to him in the most literal way, Miki also learns about the world and how it functions along with Shinichi. They are first openly hostile to each other. Miki even threatened Shinichi's family life at the start, saying he'll kill them or something if he said anything to them. So it is obvious from the start that Miki is not exactly a creature that is good in nature, but there is a certain innocence to him. He's like a kid that is full of curiosity. He asks a lot of questions to Shinichi when he doesn't understand something. Some of these questions often get Shinichi into trouble, since he's asking Shinichi what mating is and as to see Shinichi's boner, which I'm guessing his previous right hand might be more familiar with. While some of the themes tackling can be very serious and so does some of the story beat, they often know not to make the story too serious. There's always some scene to ease the tension, so unless the story really needs it, it never got stuffy or off-putting. But it also didn't get in the way of the story, unlike Marvel. In the first few fights in the manga, where for the first time Shinichi will have to be involved in attacking the parasite so he cannot be a passive viewer like usual, Miki make a weapon for Shinichi using a table desk, and there's a time for Shinichi to get his ass scratched by the weapon to ease the tension. Enough to let us know that the fight won't cost that much, but not enough to let the seriousness of the story goes away. And that's how the story pastes itself into more serious threat. The manga is also a must read if you're planning to watch the Korean adaptation of it, because the drama could be said to be an alternative sequel to the manga on what if the parasites are landing worldwide and what if it landed in Korea. In the manga, the parasite took quite a while for the public to be aware that there are murderous aliens invading human bodies, but in Korea, on the first day they landed, one parasite caused such a public uproar that cannot be ignored. A team was created for it, and a parasite that didn't fully take over a body became one of the main characters. The show even had Shinichi going to Korea to visit the parasite team. There are a few flaws here and there with the story. Other than being too chill, the main character Shinichi can also be edgy with no good reason even in later chapter, but those little flaws are what makes Parasite one of the best bridge between shonen and seinen, because those are flaws that mostly always exist in shonen. And they're not so bad to the point of making it into a bad storytelling category, unlike a sequel, the Parasite Reverse. Parasite is one of the most underrated seinen that goes into nature versus nurture and how both of them affected each other just like Shinichi and Miki. I give this a 3.75. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it.